Hello and good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are around the world. Welcome to today's Postgrad webinar session. Today we're joined by the University of Law to hear specifically about the computer science program that they've got. And I'm joined today by Dr. Paul Sant, who is the head of computer science. He'll be talking us through what makes it such a great opportunity for students to come and study on campus, online, all the different opportunities that are available with this program, which we are sure to hear about. Reminder, today's session is live. It's the 4th of June 2026. And if you do hear anything date sensitive, please factor that in. You might be watching this on demand in a couple of months' time and think, well, that's for me. And you might have seen a date. By that point, I can assure you September 2026 start dates would have passed by. But for now, I'd like to hand you over to Paul Sant. If you have any questions, pop it in the Q&A chat, pop it in the chat facility, and we'll get round to your questions ASAP. Paul, over to you.
Thanks, Gareth, and welcome everybody. As Gareth said, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name's Paul Sant. I'm the head of computer science here at the University of Law. And over the next 30 to 40 minutes, just want to talk to you about the opportunities that studying computer science at the University of Law can afford you, whether that's you being a budding software developer, an AI engineer, a legal engineer, or just simply wanting to be able to demonstrate your digital and AI literacy across a wide range of sectors. And that's one of the things really that makes the University of Law and studying computing or computer science here at the University of Law really exciting. We don't just focus on technology and look at the technology for the technology's sake. We look at how it's changing the world. We want to develop the next set of the next generation of people who are going to go into the workforce and use their digital skills, whether that's a lawyer looking to be able to use generative AI, whether that is, for example, a software developer that wants to be able to work and survive in the 21st century. We've heard lots of scare stories about junior developer roles disappearing. That is true in the sense that, junior developer roles as is, that is being a coder and learning to code from scratch, is changing. We are looking much more at people who are utilizing AI tools to help with code generation. However, that doesn't mean that those roles are disappearing and not being replaced. They're being replaced by new roles with people who can review the code that's being generated, making sure it's safe, making sure it's secure, etc. So studying computing, computer science, or any of the different terms that you might hear, sometimes you might hear information systems, management information systems, cybersecurity, all of these come under the broad umbrella of probably what's more familiar to yourselves, technology, and how we can design and develop solutions, utilize solutions, speed up what we're doing. Some of you may be using Claude, for example, to help generate things. It could be graphic design posters that you're looking for help with. It could be critiques that you're looking for help with, help and support, an AI buddy, for example. All of these different things we're seeing changing the world. And I'm probably talking to a cross-section of digital natives where mobile phones, tablets, computing is your bread and butter. But you're probably quite familiar with using applications. What we're talking about here is using those applications, but also understanding how, all the different machinery underneath it might work, how you might be able to exploit things, etc. And as things come through throughout the talk, if I get the opportunity, then I will, of course, add questions, etc., and answers to those questions as I go along. So a career in tech doesn't necessarily just mean having to work for Microsoft or Google or SAP or any of the other huge tech companies here. We're seeing now technology is ubiquitous. It is integrated in everything that we do nowadays. And everybody at some point will be using digital skills and digital technologies, whether they're going to be a software developer, whether they're going to be a cybersecurity expert, a data analyst, a lawyer, a doctor, etc. At some point, technology is going to come to the fore. So that means it's really exciting to be able to study computing, but it's also exciting in terms of the range of opportunities that are afforded to our students and those who study with us across a really broad range of sectors. Okay, from working for Transport for London and being able to control the tube, through to smart building construction and temperature sensors that can control and keep the temperature constant, independent of how many people might be in a room or what the temperature might be outside, all the way to automated cars. We're seeing lots of news articles at the moment about driverless cars, some of them good. Isn't it great if you can just call up a taxi and it's there and you can get in and you don't have to worry about driving any time of day or night, etc. Right the way through to some of the concerns are being raised around safety. So Waymo has had some negative press most recently with cars going up the wrong way up streets and driving into lakes, etc. So that's why we really need the next generation of people who can build that technology, understand that technology, and make sure that everything that we're using in terms of technology is really supporting what it is that we want to achieve. So in terms of a little bit of housekeeping, in terms of participation here, this will be available on the University of Law On Demand channel. So if you're watching this in a recorded fashion, then you'll be able to catch up with things. And we'll try not to be too date sensitive here, because a lot of the things that I'll be saying are not date sensitive. Importantly, please don't share any personal details, any emails, etc. Good cybersecurity practice, but also we want to keep you safe and secure. And if you've got any questions that you have, then you can drop those to postgradevents@law.ac.uk. If I don't get a chance to answer them today, of course, I will try and focus and answer those questions. So in terms of what we're going to do over the next 25 to 30 minutes, I guess a key question, once I've done a little bit of introduction about myself, so you know who I am and what I'm interested in, then one of the key questions is, why might you want to convert to computer science or computing? I'll use computing because that's a more broader, perhaps more accurate reflection of the direction of travel. So, but it doesn't mean we don't cover core aspects of computer science, but we also focus on the real world applications, the live applications, the types of tools, hardware, software that we're trying to get people to utilize. That's what we're focusing on developing in terms of graduates, in terms of career opportunities. But we're also focusing on those who have a good understanding of that technology and may want to be the interface between the non-technical and the technical world. So a business system analyst who can talk to the IT team and translate what the chief executive officer of a publishing house is asking for in ways that they'll be able to understand. And then when the information comes back, that translation into kind of layperson, real world language that chief executive officer is going to understand. For example, how are things going to improve? How are productivity levels going to increase? How are the amount of time it takes to perform a particular task going to be reduced? And probably most importantly, how much money is it going to save me, or how much profit is it going to help me make? They're the types of things that those high-level chief executives and chief financial officers are really interested in. So there's lots of different roles out there, and so it's not just for people who want to go into technical roles. As I said before, it's for those people who really want to understand digital technology and be able to use it in a way that is great for them. We'll move on a little bit to talk about the course overview. What are the modules that we've got in here? There's a question here in terms of, does the program cover artificial intelligence? Absolutely. We talk about applications of artificial intelligence. What does artificial intelligence mean? What are the different applications of artificial intelligence? So from games playing, for example, any of you are avid computer games players, there's AI that's there, through to driverless cars, and there's AI in terms of being able to identify objects, all the way through to companies like Amazon that can use AI in order to identify objects, choose the right size box for that object, all without the need or significant removal of the need for any human participation in a lot of aspects of their supply chain. So there's lots of really interesting questions that we'll talk about. In terms of large language models, we talk about that in our applications of AI, but we talk about it at a broad level that is adaptable to everybody, and then encourage people to explore the use of large language models to help understand how things like ChatGPT and Claude and Gemini work. So how do they generate the answers that we have, and how do those large language models work, but also at different types of artificial intelligence, including machine learning, deep learning, etc. We'll focus very much on the employability because that's really important. Doing the degree is one thing, but we're having conversations at a cyber hack festival yesterday where I had 2 teams from the University of Law competing. Very proud to say that we got first place. One of our teams was identified by the employer as being the best solution. So they had about 4 hours to generate a cybersecurity solution. And what the employers were saying is a piece of paper and a degree is one thing, it might get you through the door, but what they're really interested in seeing is people who are participating in hackathons. So that is where you get a live brief and you work in teams to develop solutions. And those teams can be a balance of technical and non-technical experts. We had a cyber expert, we had an app developer, and we had people who were working in the marketing side who were great in terms of the pitch. So we'll talk about that employability. Talk about some tech careers. Of course, we can't talk about all of them in a seminar of this length. And then hopefully I'll give some time for some questions at the end. Okay, so in terms of the MSc Computer Science conversion course, I just want to talk about the structure of it and what makes it different, how it's interdisciplinary. So it cuts across lots of different subjects that we teach here at the University of Law, including law, as you might expect, but also business and how we can use computing and technology to make business decisions, to make better business decisions, how we can use it in the areas of psychology, for example, and also working with criminology. And one of the other programs that we have here at the University of Law, fresh for starting in September 2026, is a collaboration with our criminology team, and it's an MSc in digital cybercrime. There's some other more exciting developments that will be coming along from September 2026 for the computing team here at the University of Law. So we're going to offer some new programs. So watch this space, keep an eye on our website for developments of some new specialist programs cutting across data science and artificial intelligence, designed for people with a technical background or who've worked in a technical role but may not necessarily have a technical degree, all the way through to some more conversion friendly, i.e. not necessarily needing a computing degree at undergraduate level in order to be able to take them in computing in AI, and computing and cybersecurity. But let me come back to the focus of today, which is our MSc Computer Science conversion. One thing I do want to say about the MSc Computer Science conversion, it's a little bit of a mouthful. So we have taken a look at renaming that. So from September 2026, same modules underneath, but we're simplifying the title. So it'll become MSc Computing. So what I'm talking about today will become MSc Computing. So it's the same course, but if you go onto the website and you say, oh, where's MSc Computer Science conversion? Over time, it will change to the MSc Computing program. So maybe just make a note of that so that by the time you're coming for application, you don't get too confused. Let's check on the questions at the moment. Yeah, okay, so AI, really good question here about AI shaping the future of the careers. It's there to be able to help productivity. It's there to be able to get insights that at the moment might take days, hours, weeks, months for people to be able to find. And so what we're looking at in terms of careers is that those that embrace artificial intelligence, understand how to use it safely and securely, have been trained and developed in that area, are going to be the ones that are going to succeed. So some job roles will be removed simply because of automation, but they will be replaced with people who are what we call AI literate. So they understand how to use AI. They can see, for example, how they can use AI to manage their inbox more effectively, how it might be used to generate emails, given a script, given some instructions, because remember, artificial intelligence still needs human input at this point. They can't generate things as we do as humans. They don't think in quite the same way. In terms of our course overview, very briefly, I'm the head of computer science. My main interests are around cybersecurity and artificial intelligence. I've been working in academia for over 20 years. And in terms of what we're seeing, things have changed, but the principles have not. So many of the principles of computing that are used today are principles that have existed for many years. The main difference is the speed of development, the speed of innovation. But what I want to say is that we focus very much on the principles, and we'll use one or two key technologies to talk about and really cement your knowledge and your understanding. But importantly, if you've got those principles, then it doesn't matter whether a new computing language comes along. You will be able to pick that up super fast because the principles will be the same. It's the same with artificial intelligence. So a lot of the things that we're doing around artificial intelligence and around the principles, they are the same. And so if you know those principles, you can jump between ChatGPT and Claude and Gemini, okay, because they all use pretty similar interfaces. They all use pretty similar technology. They all use prompts. That is, we're asking questions of it. So you'll be able to move between those interchangeably. And ultimately, it's down to user choice, interface choice, maybe speed that you're interested in, but you will be able to move along. So in terms of why you might want to study with us, well, we've got a huge alumni network, and they come across law, psychology, computing, criminology, business, etc. So you can really get to talk to different people. You can explore many different career opportunities, and I think that's really, really important because it broadens your mind. You don't get into that kind of blinkered view of, well, a career in computing or a career that uses computing must be a programmer, must be a network administrator, must be a cybersecurity expert. It doesn't have to be that. And it doesn't have to be that you need to work in the tech sector. You could work in tech sales, you could work in business, you could be working in an IT department in a hospital, for example, or a government role. So there's lots of different opportunities. In terms of other aspects, it's about being taught by experts. I talked about a little bit about live briefs and projects, and we're developing a work integrated learning framework at the moment, and we're looking to be able to give all of our postgraduate and undergraduate students, so mainly today we're talking about postgraduate, a real life experience. So that could be a live project brief, it could be a live project, it could be a consultancy project with an employer, it could be a virtual internship. So watch this space, but it's a real opportunity to take the theory, the principles, the applications that you might have done in a coursework that might be perhaps synthetic or made up, but real world relevant, and actually putting that into a real live brief that an employer has helped set, a real business problem that needs to be solved, and then really strengthening those links between you as graduates and students and employers so that they can get that relationship up and working as early as possible. I have to say, in terms of expert careers advice, we've got an amazing employability service. We are bringing some programs along that will also have year-long placements within them. And as I said before, work integrated learning and making sure that our students can get that real life experience. So that when you go to talk to an employer, you can talk about the real things that you've done, the real problems that you've solved, so that they can really relate to those. High levels of employment related to that, and we're also AWS Academy, so Amazon Web Services. So that gives you an opportunity to get some training to prepare you for professional certifications. We're also a Cisco Network Academy, and most recently, we've joined the Microsoft Learner Education platform and also become a member of the Oracle Academy. So there's lots of real world training out there, lots of certificates that you can learn along the way. So you can demonstrate to employers those real skills that they understand. They will be familiar with, let's say, for example, somebody who wants to go into networking, they would be familiar with a Cisco Certified Network Associate certification. That means that they know the person is going to be able to work with the hardware. We're thinking about people who are working with the cloud, a certified cloud practitioner from AWS, for example. That gives a real demonstration to an employer that you can use that software. You know how to set those things up rather than just knowing the theoretical principles. So, questions that need answering. One, why might you need to study a conversion course? And secondly, who is the conversion or conversion-friendly course aimed at? Take the first question. You might want to study a conversion course because you're thinking about career progression. You might want to develop further your knowledge and your understanding, or you might want to pivot from your current employment into a new sector. And so having those academic credentials is a good step. It's not the only step you need. You need that experience, which we provide you with. You need to be familiar. You need to have all of the things that we talk about. And one of the things that I really want to make in terms of a remark is that whilst AI is changing the world, it will not replace us as humans. And it will not replace things like criticality and analysis, human empathy, emotion. They are things that computers find very difficult because it's quite difficult to put a number. It's quite difficult to put a value on those things. Yes, AI tools are getting better at them, but don't forget those critical skills. Don't forget those interpersonal skills. Don't forget those team working and organization skills. AI is nowhere near being able to do that. At the moment, in terms of AI development, we're probably talking about the knowledge and the experience of about a 5-year-old. Okay, so imagine what AI could do if it was, collectively had all of the knowledge and understanding in the world. Okay, yes, it would become much more powerful, but that's not something where we are today. And there will be some skills that AI will not be able to replicate. The other things, high earning potential. So careers in computing and technology attract high entry level. So typically, that 30 to 30,000 pounds. Sorry, 30 to 35,000 pounds is a typical entry level, which is higher than many other sectors. It's intellectually challenging. There's never 2 days that are the same. It makes you think outside of your comfort zone. It makes you work and realize that actually working together and collectively, you can achieve much more than you'll be able to do on your own. And it helps you develop those critical skills, those research skills, those understandings. So why should I choose this particular type of solution? What's out there? What's new? Is what's new stable? Should I be talking to my employer about developing a new framework, or is it too early to do that because it's only been in what we call a beta version? So not out there as a production level version. In terms of who the conversion course is aimed at, it is typically aimed at those who don't have an IT or computing undergraduate degree. So you might have studied law, you might have studied English, you might study any of those subjects that are not computing, then it's relevant to you. Now, we do every so often get people who study computing degrees before who come onto the program simply because there's something that they didn't necessarily study in their undergraduate degree and they want to take that forward. We do ask that anybody who's thinking about taking this program with a computing degree already at undergraduate level, look carefully at the webpage, look carefully to make sure that it would be value for money and that you would learn something truly valuable by undertaking this program. And if you're not quite sure, reach out to me, reach out to the postgraduate events at law.ac.uk and it will get its way to me and I'll help support you in terms of making that decision. And as I say, from September 2026, we're going to have some new programs. So in the next few weeks, you should see an expansion of programs on our University of Law website. As I said, data science and AI. Okay, if you're coming from that computing background, that's a much more specialist program and it may be much more relevant as a choice. So you do have other choices if you think the conversion program is not quite for you. Okay. So what are some of the key features of our computer science conversion program? Well, interdisciplinary. So in terms of the case studies that we look at, in terms of your exposure whilst you're a student here, with some of the co-curricular and extracurricular activities, you get to work on problems that are outside of the pure technical IT domain. They may well have a technical element to them, but they may be being applied to non-technical areas. So for example, a client management system for managing billing in a solicitor's office. Okay, got a technical component, but you're doing it for a non-technical company and organization. Also talking about applications to the real world, live briefs, live projects, looking for internships, all of these things really, really important. Developing you as a professional who can go out there and can develop applications, can talk to people about what applications they should be perhaps buying and utilizing in the organization, because you have a real world understanding of what is relevant to those particular sectors. We also focus very much on small group workshops. So we typically tend to teach in sessions or group sizes of 25 or below. So you get that real opportunity to have that short environment, that real close working environment. And of course, there will be times when we'll bring bigger groups together, but we really want you to get the most value out of that. And we feel that small group working in groups of 3 or 4 is the best way for being able to do that. Otherwise, nobody gets a chance to put their questions forward, put their viewpoints forward, because there's just too many people in a group. So we think that's a real great life skill. And in terms of employability opportunities, whether that's on program and talking to the employability service about an internship that you might be able to undertake, virtual or physical internship, whether that's part-time work, for example, balanced with your study. So we try to timetable sessions into 2 days a week so that we can leave the rest of the week in terms of flexibility for you to be able to undertake part-time work. That doesn't mean necessarily that we won't ask you to do things outside of the classroom, but we understand that there are, cost of living, that wanting to be able to support yourself, wanting to get that experience. So we do expect that students are going to come along and undertake part-time work. What we don't expect is that somebody's necessarily doing a full-time job and trying to do a full-time program at the same time. If that sounds like you, okay, so you're already working and you're looking to be able to free up some time, we also have some flexible delivery models, as was mentioned before by Gareth. So we have a full-time weekend program, so things are delivered on a Saturday and a Sunday, and a part-time weekend program so that people can fit that around their lives. So we want to help you, we want to support you, and we want to maximize your success and your outcome. In terms of what you'll study, typically you're studying 3 hours per module per week, and that is split across kind of practical sessions in the labs, doing lab-based activities, workshop activities where you're doing small groups on case studies and questions, developing solutions, and what we kind of call seminars, so where we want to give you information. That means you'll be studying typically up to 9 hours per week. That is the face-to-face contact. And then the expectation is that you'll spend some time outside the classroom doing assessments, doing various other things that are related to your study, but they don't require you necessarily to be on campus. So you've got some information there about fees. I won't say too much about that because I want to actually say about the modules. So we've got some elements around web technologies, so we can talk about things like standard website development technologies, HTML, but often we talk about things like server-side technologies, so that could be Node.js and Next.js for developing simple web page applications, but also things around Python and Django, which is a web framework where if you know Python and you know a little bit of HTML, you can put those two together and you can develop a really great looking web application. Data management technologies, data is the new oil, or data is the new gold out there. Organizations have got a lot of it. AI has got a great role to play in there in terms of picking out patterns, in terms of being able to analyze that data, in terms of being able to forecast moving forwards, whether that's with Microsoft Excel, whether that's Power BI, whether that's another technology like Tableau, or whether it's you developing a Python program that uses a library such as Pandas. So we talk about all of those different elements, how you can build them, how the world is changing, how the world is no longer viewed as a spreadsheet or as a table. It needs to be much more flexible, and the technologies that are allowing that. And then you have the project in computer science, your real opportunity to work on a real world problem on an extended period of time. So your project runs for the duration of your program if you're doing it full time, and if you're doing it part time over 2 years, the second year is devoted entirely to the project. In terms of the modules that we're talking about, there are some interdisciplinary modules. So we've got a range of different modules out there. So some of those are data and decision making. We've got some machine learning modules out there. We've got network and penetration testing. And we're developing lots of different pathways. And over time, they may change, and what options are available will depend upon student numbers. We don't want to be having you in classes of 1 or 2 students. We really want to get that really good student experience. So there are lots of different modules that are out there in terms of optionality. So we've got things like cyber laws and corporate governance and disruptive technologies from the law side. We've got cloud and network management, network and penetration testing. We've got data and decision making out there. And as I say, we keep this on a review on an annual basis. And of course, technology is one of those programs that runs super, super quick. So we're always looking, is what we're doing still relevant? Is what we're doing needing to be updated? Are there new technologies that we should be talking about to the graduates of the future? There's application to the real world, whether that's through specialist optional modules, whether that's cross-disciplinary learning. Some of that takes place, of course, in the class. So, some of those modules you may be with students from other disciplines, but also outside. We've got lots of student societies. We've got a British Computer Society, Student Computer Society out there. We've got an AI debating society that gets the law students in there, the computing students in there, the business students in there, and that dedicated employability support that starts from day one. So we have an excellent employability portal that you're able to access. We've got lots of job portals, things like Student Circus, for example, which is designed for international students and has employers there who take and sponsor international students. One of the key things that we recognise international students struggling with sometimes is they might be excited in a job and then find when they apply they can't be accepted because the company doesn't provide sponsorship. However, Student Circus, all of the employers that are on Student Circus will employ and provide opportunities for international students. We also use GradCracker as a platform, which is focused around science, technology, engineering, and maths. So it's great for computing and IT graduates, of which you would become one by completing this program. So in terms of that, again, a range of employers there that will be able to employ international students. Not all of them can, especially if they're related to UK Ministry of Defence. So companies like Leonardo, much that they'd love to be able to take on people, they're restricted because of security clearance, for example. There's plenty more jobs there that are available for international students. In terms of skills, obviously technical skills there, but also the ability to think quickly, the ability to organize yourself, the ability to be critical, to take charge. Perhaps the next slide is even more important. Some of the really important skills, sometimes they're called transferable skills, sometimes they are called soft skills, sometimes they're called business acumen. They all mean the same thing. Things like being able to meet deadlines, like being able to work in teams, being able to take leadership, being able to step back sometimes and not be that leader and do that element of work, your quantitative and your qualitative skills in terms of analysis, your ability to self-manage, a lot of that important at postgraduate level in the UK. There will be times where you're expected to work independently and autonomously on things, and so being able to do that. But also from the business side, commercial awareness. So this solution is commercially sensible because I'm being able to explain why, rather than just saying I've just developed an application and I haven't thought about the commercial awareness. They may already have a similar system, for example, or it might be too expensive, or it might not support the technologies that they have in the business. So they're all key questions to answer before you start developing and building those things or suggesting them. Lots of other things on there. I'm not going to read them all to you, but those transferable skills are at least as important to employers, if not more important than any technical skills that you will bring. In terms of the industry and the opportunity, so it's large in the UK, $1 trillion worth of in terms of value, that grew from 446 billion in 2018. And it is continually, as you might expect, one of the fastest growing industries in the world. And importantly, it makes a really important contribution to the UK economy every year. So you can be part of that. In terms of the tech jobs out there, there's work to do, of course, in terms of diversity. We want to encourage many, many more neurodivergent students, students from underrepresented groups and backgrounds, whether that's based on gender, whether that's based on ethnicity. We're calling out for a really, really diverse network of employees that bring in different things and different values, because together that's much better than having everybody from the same socioeconomic or ethnic group. In terms of numbers of people, so you've got there over 3 million people working in the UK tech force. That's changing in terms of their job roles, but there's still a significant number of people that are employed. And, you know, whilst you'll see those kind of scare stories in the media about jobs being replaced, what you need to follow on is just that, you know, further down there's an article about saying how many hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands, thousands, or even millions of jobs are being recreated. So please don't be concerned. There will definitely be a role for you to use and utilize that digital technology. In terms of UK tech statistics, we've seen them go up by 7%. Salaries on average around £32,000, so that's a really good starting salary in the UK. I'm aware of time, so I will skip over some slides. I've got too many to go. What we really want to talk about here, I'm not going to read out all the roles, but you can see they're really diverse in terms of tech roles, but they can also be really diverse in terms of industries and sectors that they work in. So cybersecurity, for example, NHS, health authority, councils, government, you name it, they all need cybersecurity experts. AI engineers, again, across all of these different sectors. Web and mobile developers, machine learning engineers, data scientists, business analysts, you can pretty much work across any sector. Technology is an enabler for all. In terms of job sector, thinking about entering, there can be lots of different things. Cybersecurity, data science, games designers, programmers, business analysts, legal engineers. There's a whole range of different elements. And even if you're not thinking about a technical role, you're just trying to develop those technical skills so that you can go and carry on and be the next generation of lawyer or doctor, etc. You know, and medicine in particular is one where AI is making huge strides in terms of disease protection and prevention, climate change, working for the UN, World Health Organizations. All of these things are options if you come and study here at the University of Law. I'll just kick on one example here. So a software engineer, in terms of being able to build those applications, you've got your starting salary out there. You know, and an experienced salary, you're getting 70,000 plus per year. In the US, in dollars, you know, software engineers can be earning $150,000 a year. You know, it really depends, but really keep an eye on those AI skills, and AI coding is going to become to the fore, and that's what we're going to be talking to you about in the program that we deliver. I'm just going to skip over a couple of others in terms of developers. There's lots of different opportunities and developers and development opportunities, whether that's web, whether that's mobile, whether that's embedded software that works in aircraft or trains or driverless cars. All of those roles exist, and IT roles and IT functions exist in every sector. So, you know, you're not necessarily going to have to go and work for an IT organization. You might work for consultancy like Accenture, for example, and go and work and be consulted out, or you might work in a hospital, but in part of managing their network, managing their data and their security, for example. So just to summarize before I say any questions, because there's probably lots of questions that I've missed, so I will pick up on some of those as we move along. Doing the program here, interdisciplinarity, the opportunity to develop not just technical skills, but those transferable skills. real world learning through things like live project briefs, live projects, which could be a coursework project. It could be something that you're doing for your final project at the end, for example. So there's lots of different opportunities. That interdisciplinarity is really important. And you can study in this program at both London and Leeds. So we are a very different university in that we are distributed. London, okay, I probably don't need to sell for most international students or necessarily home students, but Leeds is an absolutely vibrant hub of technology. There's a massive startup tech scene there. There's loads of job opportunities, lots of growth across there. So, think about going to a different campus other than London, because actually your experience there, you're in a much smaller microcosm, much smaller community, but a really vibrant community. Agro-tech, medical tech, legal tech, absolutely vibrant in Leeds. In terms of other programs, then, as I say, watch the website. They'll be going live in the next couple of weeks, so you'll be able to see what other new programs we'll have in place for September 2026. And everything that I've said here is absolutely relevant for those programs. So I am going to stop there.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Paul. Really appreciate it. And it's so fascinating in a world that we now live in. We live in this kind of tech-heavy world, and even though you think you know everything about it, me watching that there, I was like, I don't know half as much as I should know about it, really. And I think that's where the conversion course is so good. There's been loads of questions around why a conversion course? What's the difference between this and a bog standard MSc? So let's start there quickly, because there have been questions around, will this have any bearing on my CV? Will it look worse? Will it look better? Does it matter? My understanding is the conversion course, from the answers that your colleagues have been putting in the background, is that this acts as a pathway for those that have little or not as much experience as those studying a computer science background would have. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So it assumes no prior knowledge, essentially. So might be a passion, might be desire, might be a surface level knowledge just because of a hobby, or absolutely no knowledge at all. In terms of its value and its worth, really important, especially if you've done a first degree that is something else. So you want to break into the tech sector, and you really want a technical role. Having this MSc Computer Science Conversion, which will become MSc Computing, which I think will help with the employment piece, an MSc Computing that is conversion friendly, but it doesn't say anything about conversion. It doesn't put a doubt in the mind of the employer that actually is this person really going to be able to cut the mustard? Absolutely, they will. And there are people pivoting into those careers, want to pivot into those careers, may have worked for many years in a particular sector. So this type of degree is really, really useful. How does it differ to a specialist degree? It's because it doesn't expect any prior knowledge. If we're talking about the MSc Data Science and Artificial Intelligence that's going to come on, we would expect you to have knowledge of computing, of networking, of artificial intelligence, and taking that further rather than starting from those first principles. So both serve a really important employment purpose, but they're both for two different audiences.
And there's been a question here as well. I'm going to have a follow-up question for you, if that's okay, Paul.
Yeah.
Can I get an internship with this course? I think it's important to point out that the program itself does entail, live coding exercises. You get hands-on labs. You mentioned already, you get real great experiences. But also, as well, my follow-up question onto that is, rather than an internship, if you don't offer them, you do actually get the opportunity, perhaps in an interview, to do real life examples and create your own kind of algorithm, your own kind of project, don't you? And therefore building that experience itself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess the best example of that is the project at the end. So we always encourage our students to, I guess, shy away from something that is just theoretically interesting and actually thinking about the practical applications of that. And as I say, we're just at the very early stages of building a work integrated learning framework into the university. In terms of its integration into the program at the moment, as an internship as part of that, no. As part of moving forwards, yes, it will be there. And as I say, that can be many different things. And in terms of a direction of travel, we are looking at some of other programs to offer a 2-year version where you do the MSc knowledge, understanding, academic, and then the second year is focused on going out on an internship. And there are things that we can work around. So that's why I said it's really important to have with employability, for example. There can be virtual internships, for example, where you can do that outside of your study. You've not got to move away from your home campus. You can do all of that from the comfort of your own home, but it's actually a live, real project developed by employers. So they're asking for a solution, and then they're looking at those solutions and saying, oh, actually, you know what? That's some future talent. I can use that to go and reach out. Let's go and try and find that person on LinkedIn. Let's go and try and see whether we can get into the university and go and talk to those students, or invite somebody to a webinar that we've got, or think about reaching out and asking for their CV. So all of those different things. So they're different things, but they all lead to the same route.
Yeah, excellent. And questions come in here about the programs, more about the conversion courses. I want to touch upon the programs and the courses you said you've got excitingly coming out over the next few weeks, actually. Remember, we're at the early part of June. So if you are watching live and you're interested, keep your eyes peeled over the next few weeks. Now, those students that are interested in these things and they want to become involved in cybersecurity, let's say, or whether it be data science or artificial intelligence, would you recommend that they look at those specialisms specifically? Or would you go, if you're not 100% sure on what specialism you want, stick to the more broader topic of computer science?
Yeah, I'd say stick to the broader if you're not sure. You can always pick these things up, and that's one of the things with the technology. A lot of the principles, a lot of the knowledge, a lot of the understanding that you need in cyber is things that you'll study in computer science anyway. And so what you can then do is, for example, come and talk to us and we see, okay, what training programs have we got? What things can we do? Even if you're doing the MSc computer science conversion, the network and penetration testing module will give you more than enough knowledge to go in as a junior penetration tester, for example, without having to have an MSc in cybersecurity. So you can keep your options open then as well, because the other thing I'd say is if you go down a very specific route, great if you don't change your mind. Less great if you're going to change your mind and you suddenly decide, actually, I'm not quite sure what I want to do now. And then if you've got an MSc in computer science, conversion, or MSc computing, to an employer you're valuable, because actually you can then you can go on a rotation, you can see whether you want to do IT project management, or you want to do programming, or you want to do networking. So you've left your options open rather than narrowing them from the start.
Excellent. And we heard earlier, I think it was mentioned as well about Leeds and London. You don't need to sell London. We get that. Obviously, you got Leeds as well. There'll be students that won't just think about the program, will think about the cost of living as well. Obviously, doing it in London will cost, in Bloomsbury in particular. Obviously, I'm not suggesting you have to live in central London for 1 minute, but the cost of living will be a lot higher than it will be in the north of England. What would you recommend to students when they are looking? Can they pick and choose where they study based upon their, what their expected living costs are going to be, what their budget will be, how easy it is to find accommodation, let's say? All of these things are factored in. And what would you say to that student?
Well, I think it is really important that, study is one aspect. Your life and your well-being is really, really important. The north of England, Leeds is a fantastic city. It's in Yorkshire, it's got loads of green space, it's vibrant, you're in the city centre. It's a smaller version of London nowadays. So, but it's much, much cheaper. It's probably 50% cheaper, if not more. And so I think that is important. You're not going to lose out. That there's ways and means that, we can bring cohorts together. The virtual world that we all worked through during the pandemic has meant that we're much more used to using virtual technology as well. And I'm not talking in terms of teaching. I'm talking if we want to run an event where we want all our students to come together, we can, of course, do that face to face. But again, if we want to keep costs down, we can also have that virtual hackathon, for example. So my advice is do think about those things carefully. Do think about those expenses. What we don't want is that you end up getting into real trouble, real difficulty. We want none of our students to end up, without a place to stay. So that's really, really important. As I say, actually in Leeds, it's really vibrant. There's loads of opportunity. London is, really, really competitive. Yeah, it's great. It's the capital city, but there's many more cities in the UK
Yeah.
where you can be studying. And we as we grow and as we expand, we've also got campuses in Manchester and Birmingham. We haven't got computing provision there at the moment, but we are hoping in order to be able to provide that provision in the future. But for now, London, Leeds, if you want a beautiful place to live, if you want a beautiful landscape on your doorstep, if you want something that is cheaper, Leeds is an absolutely fantastic option and opportunity.
Yeah. Um, Both very, very welcoming as well. Obviously, it doesn't matter where you are around the world, very UK is a very multicultural place, to be honest with you. We're very welcoming. Students from all over the world will be there. We'll be in the same situation as you. Leeds, you're right, Paul. One of the most vibrant UK student cities. Really, really popular. Couple of big universities there, so loads of students. We're going to finish on, if that's okay, Paul. There's been so many questions around what program do I need to study, what course have I done, and we touched upon it already. One student asked here about football. Really keen to get involved in football and within that data role. How would a student make that call whether to do a conversion course or not, based upon what they've done before? Because one student said, I've done statistics before, which is numbers based. I wanted to become perhaps an actuary, but not anymore. Would this be appropriate for them, or would would you expect them to go down a different role, a different page?
Absolutely. It is very, very relevant for them. They may well want to become a data analyst, for example, if they like the numbers, if they want to do the data analysis. This is good because we have a data and decision making module that talks about all the different tools and techniques that can be used, and there's many of them, and there's many different pieces of software. And so one of the things to be able to do is to compare and contrast. Data is everywhere, patterns is everywhere, information and understanding is everywhere. So this program will provide those foundations. It gives the opportunity also to be able to learn to maybe have and develop some applications themselves that can be specific for their needs and their understanding of what a particular statistical problem or a particular financial problem that I want to look at. So we look at both the kind of software. So we do talk about the world of Excel because business very much works on the world of Excel, Power BI and things like that. But we also talk about some of, okay, if you want to do something a bit more snazzy and have a bit more control over it, then maybe you can develop your own piece of software using Pandas and Python to be able to do that and build a really great dashboard really quickly. So it's absolutely relevant.
One more point as well. I know I said that was the last question, but I want to re-emphasize that you mentioned in your presentation about the fact that you feel that, and the university feel that the education is best learnt in a smaller environment. So therefore, the module sizes are perhaps there's two or three of you, so you can pick each other's brains and bounce off each other rather than being a huge kind of 50 to 100 people class. How great is that? That actually they won't get to know them, they'll get to know you as an academic as well. That's important. You'll get to know them and you'll understand how they work, how you work, what's best, because it's evolving day to day, isn't it, technology? So you'll learn something every day, no doubt as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what we do is we teach in classes up to 24, and then we break them out into groups of three or four. So and that one of the things of being in a really large space is you can feel really uncomfortable asking a question because you're like one of 100 and you're thinking, right, there's 100 pairs of or 99 pairs of eyes that are looking at me. But actually in a small group or even if you're in a group, you can ask those difficult questions that you might feel a bit uncomfortable about, and you can come to the solution. Or you feel more comfortable because you're in that smaller class, and the lecturer and the facilitator can come and talk to you as a group. It's much more difficult to do that in a lecture theatre of 100 than it is if you're in a classroom and you're all around tables and there's 4 or 5 of you. You can have those quieter, more personal conversations and feel less self-aware that, oh goodness, somebody else is going to hear and they're going to think it's a silly question. The other thing we'll always say to our students is there's no such thing as a silly question. It's really important that you ask that question. It might, okay, somebody might consider, oh, why did you ask that question? But for you specifically, that question is really important. And getting the answer to that question can be the difference between feeling really confident or lacking that confidence and not wanting to ask that question, not wanting to put those questions up. And in the real business world, okay, you might be sitting on a floor where there are 100 employees, but you might be in a team of 4 or 5. So if you're used to working in that small environment, it's much easier when if you've done it in the university, it's much easier then to do it in the workplace.
Yeah.
And you will get experience of both, because there's sometimes where we want to talk to students in a larger group. There's something that we want to get across to the group, but that will be a shorter time period than the bit you spend in your small groups.
Brilliant. Thanks, Paul. Thanks for your time as well. Really appreciate it. We come up to an hour very quickly then. So thanks for your time. Thank you for all the questions that have come in. I think it just goes to show, I think I've been there myself as well. You hear the University of Law and you just think I can only do law, but actually this program and further programs that we can get excited about over the next few weeks do open the door, and there are more pathways open than just your bog standard. You hear University of Law can only be law. So there you go. Great opportunities. Please feel free to watch this back. This will be on demand. This will be sent to every student that registered. It will be hosted on our website. Like Paul mentioned earlier, it will sit on their website also if you want to find out more information. But for now, thank you very, very much. Paul, hopefully you'll be hearing from some of the students in September 26, October, whatever the full-time, part-time intake dates are, if I can remember correctly. But if you have any questions at all, please guide it in our direction, webinars@postgradsolutions.com, or find Paul on LinkedIn, communicate with him on the website, and I'm sure he'll be happy to help. For now, thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.